Yes.
Okay. Okay, I have here the e-views. Are you seeing my window?
Yes, hocam. We see.
Okay, before we are starting, I will show you how we are going to upload the panel data to the eViews, because I have already uploaded the data. You have to go to File. You're going to click News, WOW file, and then you have the WOW file created. Then you are going to create the frequency. Then you prefer the balance panel. And I have annual data. You will put the start date, the end date, and number of cross section, and then click OK. Then you will have the data in your system for different group of variables. Okay. Then I'm going to open, of course, the data which is uploaded already, because we don't have time to do the all presentations in 1 hour. I'm going to open one done from mine. Okay, I have here this data. It is already uploaded as panel data, and I will choose some of them for showing you how we are doing first the unit root in panel, and then go to the other estimations, so correlation, descriptive statistics, and some others. I'm going to try the first one. I will try the minimum wage rate. I will, sorry. I will click OK, open, switch it. Then I will go to the unit root. I will try for the level and individual intercept. We're looking, it's not stationary. As you see, the p-value is not sufficient, and the t-statistics is also not realized, the expected values, the critical values. Then we try the other parameters, inflation. We're going to unit root. Again, try it. Here it is satisfied the inflation, as you see. Then at level the inflation is satisfied. It's good. Then we don't have problem with this. Of course, the statistics not very well. We can go to the GDP root. Is again not satisfied. T values higher. In some cases, is satisfied. It can be accepted at level also. You go to the unit root. Is not satisfied. The p-value is higher. T-star is also not good. We can translate and transfer this to the first differentiation, as I have shown to you how we did in the last lectures. You know it, and I have already uploaded the first differentiation of the data. Therefore, we are using here Panel ARDL. Okay, we have Panel ARDL data here. As you see, some of the variables are in at level, and the other one, as you are going to see, will be stationary at first difference. When we are doing the first difference, you will see it is satisfied. Here you see it is satisfied. Therefore, some data, as you see, the inflation, for example, is stationary at level, but unemployment is not. Therefore, we have mixed data here, mixed variables. Then I prefer to use ARDL, Panel ARDL, because we have some group of countries, the bridge countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Therefore, I will prefer to employ the Panel ARDL. Okay. If you do have any question, you can ask me. If not, then I will go through to the presentation. Do you have any question?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay, then I will then, as you see, you can look for the minimum wage and then we have here also at first difference satisfied. Therefore, we can perform, as I said to you, the ARDL, Panel ARDL. But before this, we have to do some tests for satisfying this Panel ARDL, the correlation analysis. You can do the descriptive statistics. You can use Hausmann test. And we will perform the log selection criteria. I will go to group 01, which I have done before, and open it, click on it, because I have the data in I1 and I0. Then we will do the descriptive statistics for the first. We have done the descriptive statistics for the given parameters, and we already obtained the information about the mean, media, maximum, minimum values. And these are helping hand for determining what to do and how to manage this in the performance of the ARDL. As I said to you before, engaging this, we go through to this descriptive statistics and any regression analysis. It is essentially to have the following conditions done for sample data. It is useful for parametric and non-parametric tests for doing this descriptive statistics. It is essential in quantitative and qualitative research. And it is whether the sample is normally distributed will be analyzed, and it provides the central tendency to mean, media, and mode, the standard deviation and percentiles. And it's measuring the dispersion and the measures of normality for kurtosis and skewness, as I have mentioned to you in the beginning of this class. It is also necessary to use these raw materials, and we don't have to transfer it to the first difference. I already done with the first difference, but you can perform this without this for making the better presentation. Therefore, I will click on it and do with the parameters without transferring it to the first difference. Then at open as a group, then you go to the descriptive statistics. And now we have this in the raw form. Then we have here the measures of central tendency, the mean, media, and mode, the average values. Everything is given here. The mean, as you know, is the average. The mode is the most appeared, and media is the middle value. Then we go to the measures of dispersion, the difference between the highest and the lowest values, the variance, how widely observations vary, and the standard duration, how far observations are from the sample average. And we will measure the normality, the kurtosis, so-called the peakness and the flatness, as you know from the former classes. And the positive kurtosis, as you remembered, it is the highest values, the peak, and it is negative when the it is less than 3, or it is somehow lower than 3. And it is a little bit flatter, as you remembered. Skewness is also important, as I mentioned to you. The measures degree of symmetry in the parameters. If there is a normal skewness, which means 0, distribution is the symmetric, and there is no problem with the parameters, so-called it is normally distributed. And if there is a positive skewness, it is long and right-tailed, as you remember, and it is expected to higher value. And if it is negative skewness, then it is expected the long and left-tailed to the lower values. The Jacques-Berat test statistics measure the differences of the skewness and kurtosis of the series. When we are going to look to the parameters, we will then understand how it is going to be. The probability values, for example, which is exceeding the absolute value, the observed value under the null hypothesis. As you see, it is for the unemployment, satisfied inflation, and for the exchange rate. And when you are gonna look to the mean and the average values, the mode is the most repeated, as you remember, and it is the highest preferred, as you remember, not the lowest repeated. And mean and mode measure the general tendency, which the data used to better measuring. If there is symmetry among the data, the mean and the media is expected to be similar. And when you are looking here, between mean and media, there are somehow similarities. The data are not so far from each other. It is somehow good to know. Then the mean, as you know, if the mean is lower than media and media is lower than mode, then it is left skewed and it is negative values. And if it is mean higher than media and media is higher than the mode, then it is right skewed. And as you are observing here, mean is here the highest, therefore we have somehow right skewed. The parameters here, if the mean, as I mentioned to you, is the highest, then it is positive and it is right skewed. And then we are looking to the standard deviation here. If the small differences between the standard deviation and the media, as you see here, we have some small differences, but it is almost approaching each other, isn't it? When you are looking to the standard deviation and the media, this is also good because it supports success of the estimation. Therefore, our parameters and variables that we are using for this model is supposed to be good and is okay. And if there is a large differences, it is then the heterogeneity among the variables, so-called. I think this much information is enough for the descriptive statistics. If you have any question, you ask me. If not, then I will go to the next.
I just couldn't see the mode.
Mode, it didn't done here, but we have here the mean and the media, which is important for this estimation. Mode is not given here, it's true. But the necessary information is already given. Mode, as you know, the most repeated and most members in the series that we probably not used. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Then we are going to, after this estimation, and we have done also the unit root, then we will also require to determine the log. And for the log, you go to the, I will put this. Can go to, we open this, but if I will open group 1, okay. I will go to quick estimate var. I put the equations here. I have already done, I think, this all together. The dependent is GDP, and then click OK. Then we have here the estimation that we use for the luck. Then from here, we will go to the view again and go to the luck structure, the luck length criteria. We can reduce it because, you know, the luck is usually preferred small. Let's say 5, 6, or then we have here, and I prefer here, you see 6 is also, but I prefer the first for using my estimation. You see the smallest Schwarz criteria you are observing, the Hanno Schwarz criteria, AKK info criteria is preferred. Then I prefer these for me. You can copy this all, then go through to the estimation of your test. Then we will go to the correlation analysis for being able to determine what we have here. Then you will go to the group is also open. Then you click the covariance and correlation. I click also T statistics and probability for being able to determine and estimate also. This is also helping hand for us. Then I click OK. Then we have here this. Let's move on. You can see better, I think. Okay, when we are looking here, you see if the coefficient is stronger, it is good for us. The weak is not preferred. Then as much as it is approaching to the 1, then we say it is very strong correlation among the dependent and this independent, these variables on the first column. Inflation, it shows you can include this, and then unemployment is also 0.28, so 28% is okay. And when we are looking to the probability values, is also not satisfied, unfortunately, for some, but for the exchange rate is satisfied, for the unemployment is satisfied between the relation GDP and unemployment is satisfied, between the GDP and minimum wage is not satisfied, this is less. And as you see, as much as you have these coefficients higher, it says it is good and a strong correlation between the variables exist. And it is somehow between 0 and 0.19, there is a weak, very weak correlation. Between 20 and 39, there is a weak correlation. Between 40 and 59, there is moderate correlation. Between 60, 0.60 of course, and 79, strong correlation. And above 80, it says strong, very strong correlation. And as you see here, we have some strong and some weak correlation between the variables, which is supporting our model. And if the T statistics is greater than T, it is significant. As you see here, is somehow it is significant for some variables, and for the sum is not. For the exchange rate between minimum wage, for example, not satisfied, but the rest is somehow is for the GDP and inflation is also a little bit lesser, but and for the minimum wage and inflation is okay. Minimum wage and unemployment is okay. For exchange rate inflation is okay. Therefore, we can go through to the our estimation by using the panel co-integration, isn't it? This is also important for determining our variables performance. Do you have any question? I will click this. Then I click again, group this, and then go to the view Then we go to the, if something happens,
Hocam, can I ask something?
yes, please.
Hocam, you said panel, but is this time series or panel?
This is panel. This is panel, you see.
Ah,
Yeah,
it's
panel.
grouped.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Panel group, yes. It's rich countries. We go. You can choose fixed or automatic selection. Option is AKK info criteria. You reduce this 1 or 2, I approve 1. Then you have here the long run and short run coefficients for the ARDL. Long run and short run coefficients, as you see, is important for our estimation. When you are looking to the coefficients, you are observing here the co-integration is 1.2, which is very high, and it is negative. It is also good for the short run and for the long run. When you look to the relationship between the GDP, you see the GDP is the dependent and these are independents, and there is a relationship shown here. There is negative relationship between unemployment and GDP. There is negative relationship between inflation and GDP. And there is positive relationship between minimum wage and GDP, and there is positive also with exchange rate. And when you look to the probability values, it's also satisfied for the minimum wage. It is significant. For the rest, not. But important is that the relationship is somehow is satisfied. For the co-integration, as I said to you, it is very high. It is the negative, which means the correction of the let's say direction towards to the equilibrium for being able to support and realize the equilibrium position is minus, which is negative and approaching to the equilibrium. This has meant is going to approach to the equilibrium with this minus on the co-integration equation. Says our variables are becomes to the equilibrium towards to the equilibrium with 1.20, let's say, speed of adjustment to the let's say mechanism for supplying and satisfying this model. And when you are looking to the short run, there is also a negative relationship between minimum wage and also unemployment, and there is also positive relationship between exchange rate and inflation. And the probability values is satisfied for the co-integration. As you see, in the short run, it is satisfied, but in the long run, is not shown very well, but it is somehow good for the minimum wage, and the rest, unfortunately, not satisfying and not supporting. But at least for the co-integration equation, it is supporting. And when we are going to the here view and short run equations, we will then we have 5 countries, as I said, the bridge countries. Now we have the differently and separately short run estimations. And when you are looking, of course, this is a very faster gone presentation to you. Co-integration equation, as you see here, is negative, and it is it has meant for the Brazil. This is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. For the Brazil, it is negative, and it means the speed of adjustment is satisfied, and the probability value is also, and the relationship between GDP and exchange rate is positive relationship, and it is, as you see, 0.58. Between minimum wage and GDP, there is minus 0.37, and between unemployment, there is 0.26, and for the inflation, minus 0.03, which is weak and low. And then for the second, it is also negative, which is good. The speed of adjustment is also good. It is bringing the equilibrium. It is the speed of adjustment 1.7, and for the exchange rate is positive relationship, as you see, and as it is the probability value satisfied, as you see here. And for the Russia, this is also satisfied. For the minimum wage, it is negative 0.94.
Hocam, are these short run or long run?
These are all short run, separately done. Separately done for the each, and for the unemployment also negative. For the inflation, so unemployment is positive, and for the inflation is also positive. As you see, the probability value is also somehow satisfied. When you look to the third country, it is also satisfied 1.50. The speed of adjustment is satisfying the probability. When you look to the exchange rate is negative, the relationship is negative for the minimum wage. Similarly, for the unemployment negative, for this is rich countries, Brazil, Russia, this is India, is all negative, and inflation is positive. And and we go to the fourth one, you will see the co-integration is again negative. All is good because they are bringing the whole system to the equilibrium by time. Therefore, there will be probably no require to intervene to the market. And from this point of view, the bridge countries in a given model, I use some minimum wage, inflation, exchange rate, and unemployment for being able to see the impact to the system. And as you see, it is good for these countries. It will supporting the model, and it has some good and strong support for the parameters that we already used. Of course, the probability is not very well. And when you look to the fifth country, this is the South Africa, again is negative. It is bringing the market to the, this is the speed of adjustment, of course, and bringing the market to the equilibrium. The exchange rate, unfortunately, is 0.1. The minimum wage is 0.3, minus is a negative relationship, but unemployment and inflation has a positive relationship with the GDP for this given model. When I prefer, I can replace, yes, I can prefer and replace this for the not only the GDP, but you can also question these parameters for the minimum wage, for example, whether the minimum wage is affected from this. Therefore, you can do these results for the minimum wage also, whether the minimum wage is affecting and changing or not. But before this, we can perform the Hausmann test also, because it is also important to see whether the Hausmann test is supporting or not. Therefore, we will go to again rock. Here. Check. for the Hausmann test, we have to do first these pool data, I think. Therefore, we have to go back. Go to program. It's freezing something. Okay. You will go work file, you will open work file, and here you have to change this dated panel or balance panel, and then do this for the panel option. And after opening this, then you go to quick and estimate equation, then you put here the panel option. You have to go to fixed, not choose random specification. Then you go to here, view, and fix random effect. I think something I missed while I presenting you. I have quit this and come here. Go to quick again. As you see, when you do something wrong, it doesn't work. You have to choose panel. It will be random. Application I have to check. List. Okay. I am trying to control what I did wrong. Panel, random. Okay, weighted ordinary. Section doesn't say. I did something wrong. What where I did, I don't know. Let me check once again. section. I don't know, something go wrong. I think I couldn't reach it to the. But I will control it once again. Something went wrong. But for the for the other group that we are doing, we have to go again for the panel again for the quick, which is open, and you go to the equation and you change this. With control for the minimum wage. Okay, then you panel option. We go. It's okay. Then we have here again for the minimum wage. For being able to control whether the minimum wage is also when becomes dependent and how it is affecting and changing the relationship between the parameters. And as you see, it is again for the long run negative relationship between the unemployment, and the rest is positive affected from the minimum wage, exchange rate, GDP. And for the GDP is also given probability satisfied. And the quantitative equation again is negative. Unemployment is negative relationship. Quantitative equation is also, as I said to you, speed of adjustment is satisfied, and probability is okay. And for the short run again, it is negative relationship for the unemployment, negative relationship for the GDP. Exchange rate is also negative. For the inflation, it is positive. And when we go to the the first again is 1.40, 0.08 relationship for the unemployment, 0.04 for the inflation, 0.3 for the GDP, and for the exchange rate is negative 1.5, and the probability values is satisfied for the equation, for the inflation, and for the rest, for the GDP also. For the second country, similarly, all satisfied almost the probability values, and is also negative, which is the speed of adjustment. And for the unemployment, it is negative. Relationship for the inflation positive, GDP negative, exchange rate negative, and it goes like this. I think only the Hausmann, I have to control the Hausmann, something I missed. This was the panel presentation. If you want any question, or if you have any question, you can ask me. If not, then I will. I think this is enough, because I am also a little bit tired, and I missed something, I think, because it is a little bit extension of the presentation. Then somewhere I lost something. I check, and next lecture I will give you some more detailed information about the Hausmann, which is very easy and which is very simple, but I missed part something. Do you have any question? If you don't have, then I don't know. I can do it for you.
Hocam, there is one thing I'd like to ask.
Yes. Yes, please.
Is there any kind of, like in ARDL, sometimes for the long run, you read the sign inversely? Is there anything like this in Eviews, or?
What
For
do you
example,
mean Inversely, you mean?
I mean, when the coefficient is negative in the long run, for example, for the ARDL or vector error correction model, if it's negative, you say it's affecting it positively. You read it inversely.
No, I didn't say positive. I didn't say positively. It is good because negative thing about there is a.
No, I'm not talking about the cointegration,
No,
cointegrating
I'm talking about
equation.
ARDL. No, I know, but negative sign of the coefficient has meant. Let me. Has meant here, for example, 1.43 means this is the speed of adjustment which brings the whole parameters towards to the equilibrium. The whole
I
parameters or
understand.
the whole. Okay, this is
But
good. If
no,
it
no,
is
the
positive, then it is.
the coefficient of the variables, for example,
Yes.
the inflation, for
the
example.
0. No, this is only the relationship, the correlation between the variables. This unemployment affects negatively the minimum wage, isn't it?
But in ARDL, when it's in the long run, and when you see a negative sign, when you interpret it, you should say positively affects. You read the sign inversely.
Yes.
Is there something
But
like
it is
this here
depending.
too?
Yes, but it is dependent. If it is in the short run, if it is in the short run, then it is, of course, affecting and changing the long run also, because short run presentation or short run affects and change the parameters differently. Therefore, in the short run, if the parameters, in the long run, for example, here, if any parameter, any coefficient is significant or not significant, and it is higher than the probability value also, then it is questionable. And if it is only the parameter and the coefficient is negative, then this is then the relationship direction, which is affecting and changing the, let's say, between these two parameters. And in the short run, of course, similarly, is in the long run, maybe it is not affecting. It is not as it is expected in the short run. It can be in the long run different sign and in the short run, but this doesn't mean that it is bad or it is good. It is the sign which is in the short run, this parameters impact. For example, inflation affects good unemployment, isn't it? There is, for example, Phillips curve, which is affecting and changing the unemployment positively, isn't it? But in the long run, it doesn't. This is somehow like this. It doesn't have any impact, or it has a negative impact when it is extended and maintained long period of time. That's the mean of this presentation. I hope you understand.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Because this is Phillips and a very good example for being able, because in the Phillips, between inflation and unemployment, there is a relationship, there is affection, but in the long run, as you see, it doesn't. This is then somehow similarly, when you are putting these parameters into system, this is also similarly affecting and changing the whole system. I don't know if I missed any test, anything, but I almost done all the tests, and it is, I think, satisfied for this presentation. As you see, there is a guideline for these presentations and for these tests, and I always also take some notes when I am performing, because sometimes you miss to push the button and you perform wrong, as I did now. Therefore, it is important to being conscious and follow the whole guideline very strictly. If you miss the bus, as you see, this is very good for you. You cannot perform successfully the whole test. Therefore, it is important to follow the guideline very carefully and for example, if you put the log 4 or 6, and you will not perform probably the expected results as it is you hope. Therefore, this Eview applications is very dangerous if you are putting some wrong, let's say, it will put the wrong buttons, then this will then becomes everything into the wrong direction. Therefore, it is important to do conscious and very carefully, and you have to be very carefully perform this test without anybody's interruption, because when you are for example, I am doing this for you, and I don't know what I am doing exactly. I am trying to explain you everything, and I am trying to do also somewhere you may miss something. Therefore, you have to do everything regarding to the guideline. You may write somewhere else, and I didn't this today, and I missed the bus, as you see. Therefore, it is important to follow, because when you are doing such a long test and long estimations, it is necessary to follow the whole guidelines very carefully. Otherwise, you will not do, and sometimes you are getting also wrong results, and misinterpretation will not help you for your paper. Anyway, if you don't have any question, we can do some more for the next lecture. I can present you the vector error correction, or the VAR model, the restricted VAR and unrestricted VAR. You know, this is also very good. There are two different and large topics. And as I said to you, when you are tired, especially in the evenings, you have to be careful with this test. You will then perform sometimes wrong. I sometimes also forgetting some parts. Therefore, it is necessary to do very carefully these things for performing very good results. Next lecture, as I said to you, I will present you the VAR model, the vector error correction, or the VAR, unrestricted VAR or restricted VAR, vector error either. And then after the week, then I will present you the Eview. And at that level, we can do also some missing test also together. If you don't have any question, then I will finish.
Thank you, sir.
If you do have any question, you ask me. Okay, then. If you have any question or any other objections, then you can write me, then I will respond you. Okay. As I said to you, next lecture is also very good, very long estimations, vector error. I mean VAR, unrestricted VAR. Maybe I don't know how parameters I will collect and present you. Then we will do one more presentation for you after the week. But first, I will present you this on the PowerPoints, and then we will go through. Okay. Thank you for your joining, and see you next week.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, thank you, John.
You're welcome. I think it's freezing this month. Smoke.